So Nitecore just released another flat style wedge flashlight in their EDC series, and that is the EDC23. So let's check this out. So the Nitecore EDC23 comes with a USB-A to USB-C charging cable, comes with a 550 paracord lanyard with a carabiner on the end, and it also comes with a user manual, but I don't have that. So I'll put all these off to the side, and I'll give you a nice close-up of the brand new EDC23 from Nitecore. And I've reviewed every single flat style flashlight that Nitecore has released in the EDC series. And if you guys were wondering what the EDC23 was all about, well, in layman's terms, it's basically the EDC27 UHI, but shrunken down to right about there. Well, you guys can see for yourself. If I hold these side by side, you can see the size differences between the 27 UHI and the 23. But of course, there are some slight differences with the lumens and the candela and the throwing distance. So let's start talking about some of these features here. The EDC23 has a maximum output of 2300 lumens, a maximum throwing distance of 280 meters, a max intensity of 20,720 candela, and a max runtime of 39 hours on ultra low. And pushing out those 2500 lumens are dual Night Lab UHI 25 LEDs with a lifespan of about 50,000 hours and a white color temperature. It has 5 brightness levels plus strobe, and everything is controlled with dual stage, dual tail switches. So a half press and a full press do something different with each one of these buttons here. And I'll talk about that when I go over the UI a little bit later on in this video. And just like with the EDC27, the 27 UHI, and the EDC29, it does have the multifunctional OLED display right here. The OLED display has 5 different readings. It reads out the brightness level, the battery voltage, runtime remaining, lockout mode identification, and power remaining on turbo. So I'm really happy to see that OLED display here on the 23 because that's something we were missing on the EDC25 here. Not that I didn't like this LED light display on the EDC25, but I'm just a big fan of this OLED display that Nitecore has on their EDC flashlights. So let's get to the body here. The front and rear shells of the body are all made of stainless steel. But inside there's a carbon fiber composite plate and an aluminum heat dissipation plate. And if you guys were anything like me when you first saw the size of the EDC23 here, that's probably one of the biggest concerns that you have is, what about the heat on turbo? And that's something else I'm going to talk about a little bit later on when I do my heat and turbo test. Because these flashlights get very hot and the heat doesn't really have anywhere to go because of the flat nature of these bodies. And they just basically took that long body and shrunk it. So where is the heat going to go here? I know where it's going to go because I've had this for a few weeks now, but I'm just going to demonstrate that on camera, like I said, a little bit later on. But there's one thing the EDC23 has that the EDC27 UHI does not have, and that is the rapid lock toggle switch right here. And I was really happy to see that Nitecore included the rapid lock system on this small EDC23. Just like with the EDC29 here, that was the first wedge style flashlight that they made with this rapid lock system. I was really happy to see it here, but I was especially happy to see it in this small form factor on the EDC23. It's just such a nice, convenient way to lock out the flashlight, and it's a 2-stage lockout too. Lockout 1 basically locks out the brightness levels, but you can still use turbo and strobe. But lockout number 2 locks out the entire flashlight, which is great. No silly button presses. All you have to do is just flip the switch and completely locked out. It's one of my favorite features. Plus, Nitecore packed in the preset brightness levels, which I really like, and their upgraded sensor, which is right there. You can see that little hole right there in between those LEDs. That's the sensor. But this is their new upgraded sensor. So if I have this on a high brightness level and it's already on and I get close to something, it won't dim, which is great because if you're trying to look through glass or if a raindrop hits it, it won't just dim as long as it's already on. But where it will dim is if the sensor is close to something, went off and accidentally turns on, it'll automatically dim itself down. So that is the proper way one of those sensors should work. All right, what else here? Oh yes, the battery. There is a built-in 1500 milliamp hour lithium ion battery. And I'm going to sound like a broken record again. Nitecore keeps putting the built-in batteries in with these EDC flashlights, and I just don't understand why. Yes, this is more everyday carry friendly than any of the other wedge style flashlights in the EDC series. Why? Because it's much smaller. You can see that for yourself. So this is a lot more pocket friendly than any one of these flashlights. So in reality, that built-in battery might not affect you if you just carry this as an everyday carry flashlight. But if you have a job that requires you to work overnight and you need a flashlight, well, you can see where that might be a problem because there's no way to replace these batteries and it might take you a couple hours to charge this from 0 to 100. That's where that built-in battery becomes a huge problem. But if you're just carrying this every day, it might not be a problem. But regardless, I'm going to still count that as a negative, as I always will. Next, let's check out that pocket clip. And you can see that pocket clip almost takes up the entire length of this flashlight. And it takes after the EDC23 pocket clip. So you can see if I hold them end to end, that they're in the exact same location. And I complained about that because there's so much sticking above your pockets as opposed to the 27 and the 25. If I hold it end to end, you can see it's up just slightly higher, which means there's less sticking up above your pockets when you're carrying it. So I'm not sure why Nitecore adopted the 29 pocket clip location, but they did. But other than that, it's a quality pocket clip. I mean, there's a lot of tension on this thing, and you can see the spot for your lanyard right there. Also, just like every other flat wedge style flashlight that Nitecore has released, it has an IP54 dust and waterproof rating. And once again, I'm going to put that in the negatives category, not the 5 for the dust rating, but the 4 for the waterproof rating. That 4 should be much higher than just rainproof. I want to see this actually be submersible. Why? It's an everyday carry flashlight, and things happen when you're carrying flashlights around every single day. So if I just so happen to drop this in a puddle of water, I doubt it will survive that. It's obvious that Nitecore isn't going to listen to me at this point because it's been one of my negatives every single time I review one of these flashlights. So I'm not going to bitch about it too much. I'm just going to say, yeah, that's going into the negatives category. And one more thing before I move on to the lumens and runtime. There is no lumen shield on the EDC23. Every single one of these flat style flashlights that Nitecore has released, they call their turbo lumen shield, but not with the EDC23. There is no lumen shield terminology. They just call it turbo. Not that that's going to make any difference. I'm just wondering why they dropped the lumen shield terminology for the EDC23. I have no idea. And it has a 2-meter impact resistance, which is great. So now let's start talking about the lumens and runtime here. So you can see there's 5 different brightness levels plus strobe. 4 of those brightness levels are cyclable. Ultra low is 15 lumens, and that's where you get that max 39-hour runtime, which is great. Low is 65 lumens, has a runtime of 11 hours. Mid, the sweet spot, is 200 lumens, has a runtime of 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is also great. High is 1100 lumens, has a runtime of 1 hour and 30 minutes. And then there's turbo, 2500 lumens, and you can see there's no runtime information, but in my experience, it's been about 8 seconds. Which is very common for flashlights like this. They have very high lumens, but a very, very, very short runtime. The flashlight just gets too hot and there's nowhere to really put that heat, so it just steps itself down to help save itself. And turbo is where you get the maximum 280 meter throw, which is fantastic for a light this size and the intensity of 20,720 candela. So basically this is an 1100 lumen flashlight with a 2500 lumen burst. But those 8 seconds, pretty awesome. You'll see that when I go outside and do the beam test in a little bit. And then strobe, of course, is a maximum 2500 lumens, which is fantastic. Now let's talk about the UI. And if you're familiar with any of these other flat style flashlights from Nitecore, it's going to be the exact same UI. So go ahead and skip this portion. But for the rest of you, this is how this flashlight works. When the flashlight's off, give it a half press to see the battery voltage right there and what level you last left on. You can see right there. I last left this flashlight on level 4, but you can half press and pre-select where you want to start out. So if I want to start out right there on low and then full press, it goes right to low. And it does have a memory, so if I turn it off and turn it back on, it goes right back to low, 65 lumens. And if I keep cycling through and let it go, 65 lumens, you can see my total runtime that's left. It'll tell you right there on the OLED display. So this is why I say I really like Nitecore's OLED display here. It's just very, very useful. So that's fairly simple. Just full press to turn it on and just half press to cycle through all of your modes. Now let's talk about this flat mode switch right here. It has 2 functions, a half press for turbo and a full press for strobe. So strobe sensitive people out there, you might want to turn away. So half press right there, 2500 lumens, and a full press, wow, that 2500 lumen strobe. And that's basically it. So I do like that it has instant access to strobe and instant access to that 2500 lumen turbo. And yes, the EDC23 does have the upgraded buttons right here. So those half presses are really easy to hit, unlike some of the early flashlights such as the EDC27 had really squishy half presses. Not this one. And one of my favorite features is the rapid lock. So if I press this up, you can see it locks it out. Right now it's on lockout number 2. So now let's do the heat and turbo test. So I let it run on turbo for about 8 seconds or until it stepped down. And after it stepped down, I tried to re-engage the turbo, but as you can see, I was only getting a few seconds after that each time. And you can see the temperature, it didn't get very hot at all because it wouldn't let that 2500 lumens reactivate. And it takes about 30 seconds for that little bar to recharge to activate turbo for the full 8 seconds again. But a few days ago, I was testing out the flashlight on high where it got to be about 120 degrees, and then I tested turbo. It stepped down, but it took about 2 minutes to fully charge up that little bar again. So I just thought I should let you guys know that 2 full minutes for the flashlight to be cool enough to reactivate turbo after being on high for about, I don't know, 3 minutes or so. And speaking of high, I'll put those numbers on the screen right now. I reached about 125 degrees at the head on high. And I'll put on the screen right now when high stepped down from that 1100 lumens. It definitely wasn't the projected time that Nitecore put on their website. And you know what? I almost forgot to talk about the dimensions, so let's do that before we do the beam test. It comes in at 4.05 inches by 1.30 inches, and it has a thickness of 0.53 inches. And it weighs about 3.56 ounces. Now, let's take this bad boy outside. All right, guys, let's check out this beam here in my backyard. I'll start on ultra low. That's 15 lumens. And check that out. You can sort of get an idea already of what beam profile you could expect with the EDC23. So, nice white light. I'm not going to spend too much time here in ultra low. So let's go to low. That is 65 lumens. And yeah, I'm kissing that tree right there. And let's pan across and see if I can hit the barn. Yeah, I'm kissing that barn a little bit. I'll put on the screen the distance between me and that barn right there and me and that tree. Okay, so there's low. Let's go to the sweet spot where I like to go all the time. Right here is mid, 200 lumens. And you get about 3 hours and 45 minutes. Now, I haven't checked that or tested that yet. But 200 lumens shouldn't really stress this flashlight out too much. You should absolutely get right around the projected time. But once again, I didn't test that. And I'm looking for deer back here. Usually, if you guys watch my channel, you know that I have wildlife back here all the time. Either some raccoons, some deer. There's a cat that's been hanging out right here in my little pile of bricks, little stones right there. Nothing today, though. Nothing today. I laid out a bunch of pumpkins for them over there, too, so kind of sucks. But there's medium. There's high, 1100 lumens. Very nice. Check out that beam profile. So pretty crispy outer perimeter right there, as you can see. And pretty even from that outer perimeter to that hotspot. Nice even spread. Not a crispy hotspot, but it's there. You can see. So I sort of like it. I really like it. And there's the barn right there. Very nice. So I'm going to click it over to turbo here. And we're not going to get a lot of time, as you guys already know by my heat and turbo test. So let's do that and go. Oh, man. All right. Oh, I already stepped down. I couldn't make it all the way across. Come on. All right, let's do it again. Boom. Stepped down already. Like, that was a second. So this is my one issue with this light. Yeah, because of how small it is. I mean, I'm really attracted to this small body size right here, and you can see, I'm not sure if you guys can see that, maybe not, it's blurry. The little bar right there is filling up very slowly. Like I said, it takes about 2 minutes for that bar to fully fill up, and you can use turbo for that full 8 seconds again. When it doesn't fill up, and I mean, it's not even 10% full right there. Watch this. Turbo, and already stepped down. Not even, I can't get 2 seconds. So as much as I like this small form factor, the trade-off and the negative is you're not going to get much time with these higher levels because of this small body. And yeah, my hand, you can see it has nowhere to go. Okay, so my hand is right there on that hot spot. That's going to get about to be, what was it, 125 degrees? So right now, it's not crazy, but if I continue here on high, it will get to 125 degrees. So you might want to think about gloves if you're using high for any extended amount of time. But that is the one issue I have with this light. And obviously, guys, like I said earlier, if you're looking at this light and concerned, you're concerned based on the performance of the other lights in the heat, and now they just took away about half the body, you knew exactly what was coming. And look, guys, it's still, I'm sorry it's a little blurry, but look, it's still filling up there. It's not even halfway back, and I'm still on high. High right here is where it's going to get the hottest on this flashlight. But that's enough of this area. We're going to walk around to the other side of my house, and I'll give you some more beam shots. Let's go. So my final thoughts on the EDC23 here are a little mixed because I was really excited about the small form factor here just because of how long these other flashlights, the wedge style flashlights were. And I was like, oh, it's about time, a lot more EDC friendly in the EDC series. But I knew there was going to be trade-offs, and the trade-off is trying to pack 2,500 lumens in a body that can only get you 8 seconds and then have to recharge for at least 2 more minutes just to get more of that 2500 lumens. Why? Because there's nowhere for that heat to go. The body is super small, so that means that aluminum dissipation plate in there is a lot smaller than, say, something like the EDC23 here. It's just a lot more room to spread out that heat. So like I said, I knew that was going to be a problem. Also, I knew other problems that were going to carry over from these other flashlights, such as the built-in battery and the really crappy IP rating. I cannot trust this to make it out of even a heavy downpour with that IP54 rating. I just don't know. At least that OLED display probably won't make it. And that really sucks because that OLED display is awesome and I want to keep that working as intended. Other than that, it's a really cool everyday carry flashlight. I just wish that Nitecore didn't try to pack 2500 lumens here. Doesn't need it. It seems like all these flashlight companies are just trying to one up each other by trying to pack more lumens in a smaller body, and where does it end? It has to end somewhere, at least with current LED technology. But if you don't really have any need for an extended 2500 lumens or even that 1100 lumens, because you're really not getting too much on that 1100 lumens, if you stick in mid at 200, this is fantastic. Over 3 hours on that 200 lumen mid, I think is great. Plus, this rapid lock system is awesome. One thing I don't like with flashlights is having a goofy button press system where you have to hold something and press it and hold down. I don't like that. This, click, boom, done. Every single flashlight company should follow suit with a toggle switch, a mechanical toggle switch to lock out the flashlights. And right now at the recording of this video, the EDC23 is $74.95. So $75. What do you guys think? Is it worth it? My honest opinion is, if I'm going to spend most of my time at 200 lumens, do I want to spend $75 just to have a sustainable 200 lumens? I don't know. Is it a cool flashlight? Yes. Do I get 8 seconds at 2500 lumens? Yes, it's there if I need it. But Nitecore, I really think you have to work on that IP54 dust and waterproof rating and that internally built battery. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. What do you think of the Nitecore EDC23? If you want to check this out for yourself, I will put links down below in my description box. But if you did enjoy this video, please give me that thumbs up. Please subscribe and go.